They stormed the gates with the cry of liberty on their tongues. But in less than a decade, their revolution would devour its own. This is the story of how one of history's greatest uprisings turned into one of its darkest nightmares. In a few minutes, we will walk the bloodied cobblestones of Paris, through the salons of Enlightenment, into the chambers of Versailles, and finally to the terrifying platform of the guillotine. What began as a cry for freedom became a scream for survival. 18th century France was a nation which was finally cracking under the weight of centuries of inequality. Society was rigidly divided into three factions. The first faction, the clergy, was made up of a tiny group of the population, but enjoyed immense privilege. The second estate, the nobility, were exempted from tax and born into luxury. The last faction, everyone else, was a melting pot of farmers, laborers, artisans, and the growing middle class known as the bourgeoisie. They carried the burden of taxation, yet had no real voice. Hunger, desperation, and resentment grew. Bread prices surged. In 1788, a catastrophic winter killed crops and froze rivers. In Paris, people queued for hours hoping for a loaf. In Versailles, the king hunted deer and dined on delicacies. At the same time, intellectual fire was burning. Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire, Rousseau, and Montesquieu were planting ideas of individual rights, democracy, and reason. People began to question, why should birth determine power? Why should a king rule by divine right? But it wasn't just about philosophy, it was finances. France was broke. Years of war, especially its support of the American Revolution, left the crown in deep debt. The tax system, which was already unfair, became unsustainable as well. Louis XVI was desperate. In 1789, he called the Estates General, a rare assembly of the three estates, to approve new taxes, but that meeting would spark a revolution. The Estates General opened in May 1789, but arguments over voting quickly fractured the gathering. The Third Estate, the peasants' representatives, angered by inequality, declared itself the National Assembly. When they were locked out of their meeting hall, they moved to a nearby tennis court and made a bold vow. They would not disband until France had a constitution. The king hesitated. The people acted. On July 14, 1789, Parisians stormed the Bastille, a symbol of royal tyranny. It held only a handful of prisoners, but that didn't matter. The Bastille's fall sent a message. The people were ready to fight for their freedom. Just soon after, another bold moment occurred: the Women's March on Versailles. In October, thousands of women, some armed with kitchen knives and makeshift weapons, walked over 12 miles through the rain to confront the king about food scarcity. By nightfall, they had brought the king and his family back to Paris under the eye of the revolution. The National Assembly abolished old-fashioned privileges, issued the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, and created France's first constitutional monarchy. But the unity was an illusion. The seeds of factionalism, suspicion, and extremism had already been sown. Despite reforms, unrest boiled. The monarchy tried to flee. In 1791, the royal family was caught attempting to escape to Austria. Trust was shattered. Hostile foreign powers prepared for war. France declared war on Austria and Prussia, hoping to rally national pride. Instead, it brought chaos. The revolution entered its most radical phase. The monarchy was abolished. On January 21, 1793, Louis XVI was executed. 9 months later, Queen Marie Antoinette followed. Paris was a city of fear. Amid the crisis, the Jacobins, radical revolutionaries led by Maximilien Robespierre, seized control. Under the Committee of Public Safety, they launched the Reign of Terror. In less than a year, over 16,000 people were executed by guillotine, many without trial. Former allies were now enemies. Danton, once Robespierre's friend, was executed. Journalists, nobles, commoners, no one was safe. The streets of Paris ran red. The guillotine, once a symbol of justice, became a machine of fear. Eventually, even the revolutionaries had had enough. On July 27, 1794, thermometer in the revolutionary calendar, Robespierre was arrested. He tried to kill himself but failed. The next day, he was executed. The terror ended not with glory, but exhaustion. A new phase began. The Directory, a five-man executive council, took power. It brought temporary peace, but corruption and instability plagued the government. The ideals of liberty and equality faded. In their place, opportunism and military ambition grew. And from the shadows rose a new figure, Napoleon Bonaparte, a skilled general with the charisma of a leader and the ambition of an emperor. He would end the revolution, but not before reshaping France and Europe forever. The French Revolution began with hope. It gave the world the language of rights, citizenship, and democracy. But it also revealed how revolutions can spiral into fanaticism, how power can corrupt even the purest ideals. The story of the revolution is not a simple tale of good versus evil. It's a lesson, a reminder that history is fragile, that liberty must be protected, not just won. Dead men don't tell tales, but in the silence of the scaffold, in the faded ink of declarations, and in the haunted streets of Paris, their stories endure. And here we tell them, one tale at a time.